Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS review video for the 2020 BMW Championship where Jon Rahm wins in dramatic fashion. I mean dramatic fashion because DJ had to force a playoff by hitting one of the longest putts of the week. It was 30-some feet. It was a double-breaking putt. It was insane. And then in the playoff hole, the very first playoff hole, Jon Rahm snakes a 60-footer just to one-up DJ to win the event. DJ had an opportunity to tie him and came up a little short. Obviously, Jon Rahm is your winner. You see that. But before we get further into this recap video, I want to let you guys in on something. I have a special guest, believe it or not. It is Fantasy Golf Pod's Chad Eckert. And if you don't know who Chad is, he is on the Fantasy Golf Pod every Tuesday night with his co-host Eric Martins. If you're not watching it, I suggest it. It's entertaining. It's knowledgeable. I like it. It's another podcast to listen to get a little bit more information, if you will. And then he also has a podcast every Monday with Joe Idoni called The Preferred Lines. Chad doesn't plug this while we're talking, but I figured I would just for you, Chad. I'll have timestamps in the description so you can get to any part of the our recap together or even the little bit that I have afterwards. We weren't able to get in the grass stats and swing stats, so I'll have that at the end. But I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Chad onto the review video. Hey, Chad, what's going on?
Eric, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and by the way, I know you and I have discussed this, but I have to say it again. I have not formally introduced myself to my audience. So I'm Eric Darbo. I'm going to have an introduction video somewhere down the road where you're gonna know who I am and my path to right now. But for now, we're gonna skip that. Just so you know, my name's Eric. That's Chad Eckert of the Fantasy Golf Pod. Chad, please plug everything you do and where we can find you.
I will plug you, Eric, as a pretty decent golfer and a real person. You know, you do these videos and you are real, though. I've seen you in real life.
I have seen you in real life.
So we have talked about coming together and having a collaboration, and we're going to do something like that. But I am Chad Eckert, and I do a fantasy golf podcast each Tuesday night. You can find it on iTunes or YouTube, the Fantasy Golf Pod, with a co-host named Eric. So
that's right.
Simple to remember. I'm also doing another betting podcast. I'm always recording something. My wife's angry at me at all the times just because I'm always busy doing fun fantasy videos. But yeah, so here we are. We're doing a little bit of the recap. You had me on. I said to you when we golfed, we were in the cart, driving the cart together. I said, dude, we got to come together. We got to combine forces, bring the Fantasy Golf Pod and the SweetSpotDFS together and build something, have some fun.
Absolutely. So
we're going to do that.
We're definitely going to do that.
Let's tease it. Let's tease what are we calling it? Is it the course form guide or the cheat sheet?
I thought of doing something even cooler than that. Like I was thinking of like the Fantasy Golf Pod SS, like Super Sport. Obviously, the SweetSpot has the SS logo in it. So
nice.
I was kind of thinking maybe, it's like something like that. I don't know. We'll continuously think about it, but it's going to be something like that. It's going to be a spreadsheet. It's going to have all relevant data and information that we find relevant, and hopefully you guys do too. And we're going to start with the Tour Championship and then work our way from there. Dare I say, I hope to, at one point in time, have a database that we can throw into a website.
There you go.
That's the dream.
Dude, that's the dream.
The dream.
No, but what we're going to do, if you listen, we're going to give you the basics. This isn't a complex spreadsheet with all of the minutia of statistics and things like that. It's the tee to green. It's the putting. It's the recent form. It's the OWGR. It's the odds. It's the DK price. It's all the stuff that you just want to get to quickly so you can click a couple names and make a roster without having to watch 30 minutes of us or without having to sift through a bunch of stats and try to figure it out. We're going to do that stuff and do that work for you, basically.
Yes.
So this week, be prepared for that to be tweeted out. If you're not following the Fantasy Golf Pod or me, you die in a real cheat, or SweetSpotDFS, Eric, then you should. And you should watch for this. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be free this time for the Tour Championship. And we could potentially lead up to what could be something that's behind a paywall. So get on it now, okay? And look at it and tell us what you like about it and what you want to see in it. And we'll try to kind of make a community cheat sheet.
Absolutely, man. Great plug.
But let's do it. Let's do this recap of the BMW. My goodness gracious, what a finish that was.
That was amazing. Anyways, Jon Rahm won in a playoff against DJ. I'm sure all of you guys watched it, but how it happened, first of all, DJ making that long-ass putt, like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Wait, because Rahm is on the driving range, like warming up for playoff, and you're thinking, what's he doing? There's no.
He had an idea. He knew.
Well, DJ was in the rough off the tee, and then you thought, okay, he's kind of dead there. Okay, well, he flew it across the green. He's 46 feet away. Okay, well, he's got to get this trickler putt. That's just got to catch the ridge just right. And he hit it. He made it. He did it. It goes to overtime, and then again off the tee, DJ.
One up some.
Oh my gosh! But before he gets there, DJ's throwing the ball to the left, and it hits the tree, goes in the fairway. So we got like DJ gets lucky there, and Rahm kind of catches a shitty break. He's in the rough. So they're both what DJ's maybe 30, 40 feet away for a birdie, and Rahm's 66, they said. Yeah. So Rahm's putting first. We saw Rahm on the driving range, watch DJ nail a long-ass putt to force this overtime. What does he do? Steps right up, knocks this little guy. And then, dude, the celebration, too, was awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. I was so happy about it. But so amazing. It was great.
Right.
It was like kind of it saved the week because it was kind of you had Mackenzie Hughes and you had a little bit of the week, even par was winning it for a long time. So at least they had some birdies today.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, is this something you don't enjoy watching? Like, I should have asked that earlier because personally, I enjoy seeing a tougher test. Like, I enjoy both. I enjoy low scores and I enjoy high scores. And I really enjoyed this because pretty much the best grinders were at the top of the leaderboard. It wasn't like who could go the lowest, although Rahm, holy crap, what did he shoot, 6 under that last round?
Yeah, so he was 66, which should have been 65 on Saturday, and then a 64 today.
And God. That is twice in a year where the courses played tough, Memorial being the other one, where he's went the lowest. Obviously, he won both of them, but for his start during this tournament, I was a little bummed because Rahm was basically my poster child for my videos. He was in my course fit video, and he was also in my DFS strategy video. I loved Rahm this week. And primarily because he can shape shots both ways, and he was doing it at the Northern Trust. However, he just couldn't score. But what he was doing there almost felt like it was a lead up to this tournament and possibly the Tour Championship.
It feels like when the going gets tough, Rahm gets going. It just feels like he's like the Euro guy on the PGA Tour.
Absolutely, man.
And you know what else? I think DJ kind of he's just playing with house money. He's just firing, doing whatever he wants, driving it like a maniac. So house money DJ, that was scary.
I really like DJ this week as well. I thought during the BMW Championship, he was shaping shots both ways. And that's something weird that most people wouldn't think, because what would you think about DJ shot shaping in general?
He's a fader. He loves to fade.
He fades, but he's been working it both ways. Anyways, not to get stuck on the results, let's go through the spreadsheet. So we have the results page up. I sweated Neiman and Matsuyama. I really they're part of my lineup core, basically. It just worked out that way. We'll get into the DK page and figure that one out. But I do have the results up. Any of you guys watching, obviously it's here. I just want to ask you quick, is there a huge surprise that you see on the top of the leaderboard, maybe minus Mackenzie Hughes?
I mean, Munoz, I saw he got, he had the 7 birdies to start last week and was the first round leader almost. So to see him here is not shocking, but at the same time, this wasn't a birdie fest. To see Munoz finish T8 and then Fitzpatrick too. I guess we already knew this, and everyone wanted to bet him at the U.S. Open when he had that hot putter, Matt Fitzpatrick, even par.
Yeah.
That was kind of shocking.
I do have to say the bucket system did like Fitzpatrick and Munoz.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get into that. But first, what I want to do is go where I always go after the results is to basically the optimal lineup versus the $5. It's usually the GPP, the highest entry fee GPP that I play. But basically the difference between the drive the green winning lineup as well as the optimal, I have it in blue. So the drive the green is the winning lineup for the winning lineup of the drive the green. I know I repeated myself, but either way, it's John Rahm, Hideki Matsuyama, Tony Finau, Matt Fitzpatrick, Brendan Todd, and Joel Damon for a whopping 50,000 used. So obviously, people in the industry talk about, trying
Don't cut event, leave money on the table.
Exactly. And I'll say this, Chad, I do this every week. This is probably, so I don't know. I can't remember how many tournaments we've had. We've had like summer, let's see, 1, 2, 3.
There's been like 21 this whole season, I guess.
But since the restart.
Probably like 12.
Yeah. So since the restart, I'm pretty sure the number of times that a winning lineup for a GPP used 50,000 is nearly half. So
no, it's crazy. Martins does these recaps too, where he sends me the winning lineup, and I'm shocked sometimes that they're always 50,000. And you're like, and they're not even duplicated.
Exactly. So like
what the fuck?
Cecil Peters isn't like a guy that I follow a lot, but I do enjoy some of the things that I see when he was on your podcast with the interview. I believe he said it there where he's like he doesn't care about duplicate entries. Neither do I. Like I honestly think the winning lineup, especially if it's the optimal lineup and there's a share of the optimal lineup, it means you can't do any better than that. So who the hell cares if it's, $50,000 you're using or not? Like that's a layer that's probably a little too far down the road that you shouldn't even think about. But anyways,
right.
50,000, they scored 449 points, 449 and a half. The optimal lineup used John Rahm, Matsuyama, Neiman, Fitzpatrick, Kokrak, and Brendan Todd. And you would have used 49,400, and it would have only scored basically 50. What is that? 464, 449, 25 points, 26 points. Sorry. So basically 25 points difference. So there was a little bit of cushion where you really could have added any of these 7K and 6K golfers in order to beat that GPP winning lineup. But that's, maybe a little too much noise to think about, but
it's not necessarily going to be that way always when it's such hard conditions and such hard scoring opportunities. You're going to have random stuff more likely happen in a birdie fest, and guy goes on streaks more often. So it's just a low scoring week because I give out the DK points scored for that week. I tweet those lists every Sunday night. Last week, DJ had 175 points or whatever and was leading. So
that was
like a lot less than 94 for Rahm. So it's a weird week, I think, in general.
It was. And I want to share one thing with you. So we're going to get off of this and go into the DK page. One thing that I talked about was in my strategy videos, I talk about lineup construction based off of salary. And when I'm not going to really do a full recap right now, but what I want to bring up is most of these lineups that if you were to try to construct the best lineup of just top 10 finishes, not saying it's optimal lineups, but top 10 finishes, it required using one or two golfers within the 6K range. And actually
is that only because you have to use 10K guys or because
the thing is
better?
When you look at the top two finishers for each year, you had a 10K guy in there.
Okay.
So yeah. Obviously, you would have wanted the 10K. And again, I did this in the DFS.
No, you'd have to have them if you want to win. Right?
Exactly. And Rahm was 11,000 this week. But I anticipated that we were going to have a golfer over 10K. In that strategy video, I also reviewed how many, top end guys finish inside the top 10. And it was pretty high. Like, I can't remember exactly what it exactly was, but For the top salary golfers, most of the time they did finish pretty decent. So I kind of had that in mind. I wanted 1 or 2 golfers around the 10K range. So like you can kind of see in the top 5 of each year, you had 2 guys in the 10K range, which just led me to Rahm. I really liked Rahm at 11,000, and I really like Xander at 9,900. So I went that route. But when you look at the who's at the top, DJ was the most expensive at 11.5.
So he barely pays his price off too at 11.5.
And he's not a part of the optimal lineup, and he's not a part of the GPP winning lineup.
Granted,
however,
that might have flipped if Rahm had
precisely.
won, which is crazy because normally it's not that tight. We're a 10 to an 8. I mean, like how much you get for less than, it's like so small compared to first and second.
Right,
like
absolutely. So in a way,
well, I guess it's 10 points. You get 30 for first and 20 for second.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So that would have made a difference, right? And if we were to look back at that optimal lineup, you had the opportunity to use that 500. So like it still would have been optimal if DJ was the winner.
Crazy.
But I knew you wanted to grab a low 7K golfer, a 6K golfer, typically a high golfer, because 6,900 was basically there were only 3 6K golfers within the last 3 years, but it happened every single year. So if I go back to that notes page, 6,600 was the lowest, was the cheapest.
So then Damon ruined that one this week because he's 65.
Well, he wasn't in the optimal lineup, but yeah, he was.
Oh, you're talking about optimal
PPP lineup. Yeah. So 66 here, and then I believe we had 69 here and 69 here. So you see, it has happened inside the top 10, and this helps you construct your 10K golfers. But the other part of it was you wanted to find a 7K, like a low 7K golfer to go with it. And in a way, I kind of you like 7.3, 7.1. I don't have anything in 2017, but I kind of use that 6K range also. So this number over here, the ranges.
Well, and then Eric, you also have to keep in mind, like in 2017, the environment on DraftKings is a lot different.
Absolutely.
So like the 7K names are not as prevalent. I mean, I don't know what the pricing algorithms did, but I feel like they've shaped them more to help the public. So like in 2017, it might be more sharp pricing. So
I also think DK has also gotten better at this. I've been kind of following along, and they're getting better with their pricing. It's not strictly based off of odds. It has a lot like they look at course history and or tournament history as well as recent form. So not to stay on this too long, but I just had a feeling you needed a 6K golfer, to add with one of your 10K golfers. You could always go. I know you like to pepper the 8K range.
Yeah, I screwed that up this week, I think.
And I think it's a really smart idea to start there and look for your favorite plays. My favorite play was Hideki Matsuyama in the 8K range. So like I go a little bit complicated when I look at this stuff where I'm like, okay, we needed 2 8K golfers. Most of the years, if I were to go back 2019, 2018, looking at the prices here, like, ooh, there's Matsuyama again with Finau. And like I continuously do that, like 8, 8-1. But anyways, I found there was a little bit of a trend to find 2 8K golfers. So I think that was really good if you were to start there. Find your favorite 8K golfer. And build
no, what it proves, though, is that you really do have to take a little bit of a risk. You have to risk it with the guy at top, and you have to pick the right name up top. Or if you're building 20 lineups, you just diversify your names up top. But just take the fucking names up top because they are better. And then don't use 4 8K guys because it's not risky enough, especially if you're trying to take down a GPP with 100,000 entries. So for me, I'm just kind of like, that was too big of a wuss move, like to go all 8Ks. I mean, there were like really good names in the 8Ks this week, so that's what happens is you always just feel like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. Right. When it spits you all these names every single week, we do these things where we look back and we think, oh my gosh, all this random stuff happens because that's golf and that's DraftKings. So don't go so conservative.
Right. Here's the thing I want to get your take on. I do the bucket system, and it is kind of it is, I don't know really the adjective I want to use, but either you can go all in on it or you don't really care too much about it. But I do a rundown here. 1-2 was the biggest bucket that finished inside the top 5 and top 10 for the BMW Championship. That's why I was on Hideki Matsuyama. was that a 1-2 finishes inside the top 5, top 10. Now, if we wanted to look at, all of the 1-2s, we certainly can. There aren't many of them.
There was only like 4 or 3, right?
But it was your pick of Xander, Hideki, Corey Connors, and JT Poston. So
Connors got you there, but he got an ace to get you there.
Right. What I ended up doing was I liked Xander a lot, but I really liked Rahm. I took a lot of my ownership from Xander and moved it to Matsuyama. And I had a lot of good lineups. It's obviously, this with DFS, you have to get the absolutely best 6 of 6 through to make a good profit. Well, I got my money back, which was awesome, but it got me on Matsuyama even more. Like the bucket system, helps in that way of narrowing down.
I will say you got to be a little bit less results oriented and then more of process oriented. Like Martins will tell me, "Oh, I didn't win any money this week," but I'm like, "Dude, you were like right there. You had switched a couple guys. Just like don't abandon your entire process because you didn't profit."
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And then it's sort of like the same thing I say to Martins too. If you're going to be chalk guy, just be chalk guy, and then when chalk fucking week hits, hit. But if you're going to be contrarian guy, be contrarian guy. Like this week, you could have started with Rory and Cantlay, and then nobody wanted, but those were and they were up in the leaderboard basically the whole time. So you could have probably started your core with that, switched off to here and there. I mean, no one wanted Todd. No one wanted Neiman. Why? Those are good players. And then Todd's been great for everybody finding Todd. So there's just ways to pivot and play DFS.
Absolutely.
But then if you don't win that week, don't go, okay, now this next week I'm going to play chalk, even though I've been playing contrarianly.
Right.
No, just stick with your process.
Absolutely. And I mean, the process was good this week. Like we go back to that notes page. I do the bucket combinations here. 1-1 happened 6 of the last 6 years. So 100% of the time it happened, our winner was a 1-1. How many 1-1s were there exactly? Not many. Like there were also very few 1-1s. There were 4. You had, pick between.
But if you used all 4 of those names, dude, you're cashing bigly this week.
Precisely. So like,
great names.
And this again, the bucket system is off of last year's result and last week's result. So it's. I like to say it this way, Chad. It's recent form of course history, and it's recent form of recent form. It's like
I love that. Dude, that's that's all we have, Eric. This isn't the NBA. This isn't the NFL. We can't go and look at something and get a concrete answer or know this guy's going to play X amount of minutes. And if he plays X amount of minutes, he's going to touch the ball X amount of times. This isn't the way that it goes. There's weather, there's draws, there's all sorts of factors.
Yep.
I mean, all of a sudden the guy switches putters. Dude's wife is pregnant. Like all this stuff just factors into how these guys play.
Right.
Does it make the way? Yeah, NBA players play differently whether they're motivated or not or whatever. They're tired. Yeah, sure. But seriously, the NBA plays every night too.
Right.
This is once a week. I mean, you gotta wait, half a season to even make a decision on if your process is working. So don't abandon things.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
Don't go. The bucket system works. I'm all in on the bucket system. It happened this week. Oh my gosh.
Dad, come on. It works all the time, man.
Give me the answers.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. There's still layers, and I totally understand.
So,
I absolutely believe. I used to do strictly bucket combinations, and now I just look at the numbers on the left side and the numbers on the right side, and I create my ownership models based off of this, like how much I want to own, not what other people are owning.
Right.
But if the bucket combination is kind of popping up, I will put more weight into these golfers. I'm not going all in on it, like you say, because there are mold breakers. I used to call it mold breakers. If John Rahm was say a 4-4 and we've never seen a 4-4 up there, how stupid would it be not to play John Rahm because he's a 4-4? But
if Lanto or Brian Harmon was a 4-4, and maybe you can fade that and feel less worried about it.
Precisely. And I mean, I think if we come down here, you're going to see the 5s. Anytime you see red numbers, to me, this is no surprise seeing, 5s down here. There weren't many, but they finished almost dead.
Well, there are not many because it's the top 70 humans on planet Earth.
Right. And same with your last week. Well, okay, you can see 6s and whatever, but the last week to me isn't that big of a deal. But anyways, I don't want to also.
It all depends on what the last week was too. Right. And did Brendan Todd care about last week? No, he probably honestly wanted to miss the cut. It's weird to think that, but that's kind of this way the things.
That is part
got
of it.
A couple of days of rest, got back home, got to recharge, got to get his laundry done. I mean, these people are real people.
Right. Absolutely. And hey, no matter how much people hate narratives and how much people hate things that are going on. Like we just found out Rory had a baby on his mind.
Yeah, thanks a lot, reporters.
Well, thank you, Rory, for not saying that for like the last 2 months, 3 months. Like, isn't she expecting soon, or did they
any day? He said he was going to maybe withdraw next week from East.
How did we not know that? Like that's so. Anyways, that plays a huge mind fuck with a lot of people, and that has to be considered. Of course, we didn't know that. So, anyways. One last thing that I want to talk about with
but Eric, that's why he did good this week, because he was thinking about trying to like impress his wife. But
and if the baby
bad on Sunday because the baby was a problem go to hell, Rory.
And if the baby is born tomorrow, that means he's gonna have baby swag going into the Tour Championship, right?
Dude, I have 2 children, and that is going to be the opposite right now.
Yeah,
fade anyone who just had a newborn.
Oh, I just love the baby swag stuff.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So
what's next?
Yes, last piece with my whole. I'm expecting an eye roll from you, but
okay.
So in my videos or on my spreadsheets, I've always included this table. What it is are buckets for recent form and course history. And believe it or not, if you wanted to create the optimal lineup in most years, I want you to focus here on this column over here as I go through each year. 2019 recent form. If you wanted to create the optimal lineup, you needed Kevin Tway in your lineup last year. He was $6,200, 68.40 was his recent form. Like, look at his finishes coming into that. Not good. So I combined recent form. If we go back to 2018, Charles Howell, the third, was in your optimal lineup. 74.75 was his recent form. Again, not very good recent forms.
So
going back to 2017, Anirban Lahiri was in your optimal lineup. So you're seeing there's a trend here, right? And you're seeing like, why would you ever play Lahiri? Why would you play him? Why would you play Charles Howell III? Now, he's like, Mr. Consistency. Why would you play Kevin Tway at 6,200? And if I were to even go back to 2016, you're going to see JB Holmes had that recent form of 60. The reason I'm bringing this up is most people fade golfers like this because your recent form looks terrible, right? Like people are like, no, I'm not going to play someone who has terrible recent form. Well, in 2020, you're coming back to 2020.
Who was it this week? It was Neiman.
Joaquin Neiman.
Terrible.
Sebastian Munoz.
I was talking crap to Martins about Neiman this week because I was like, no, look at me. I played him the last 4 weeks. Do not play Neiman is what I said.
The only thing that I didn't like, I played Neiman, and when I constructed my lineups, I basically did this. I went by recent form, and I grabbed a couple guys from here that I actually pinpointed a few golfers that I liked. I have to admit, my favorite guy was JT Poston.
Okay.
Primarily,
so that was going to be your hero.
Right. Primarily because
he's 6,500. He has bad recent form. This is the 6K guy. That's your guy. Yeah.
But unlike in the past where I would have went all in on like his bucket combination, because I believe he was a 1-2. Yeah. He was a 1-2. I'm not going to go back to the DK page.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
He is a 1-2 based off his last year finish and his last week finish. Now, if I were to go back to 2019 and look, Tway had a 24th.
Sure.
Howell had a 58th the week before. Again, these were playoff events leading into this. So everything looks good. But then when we have two here, this is the only missed cut. So 85s on my spreadsheet are missed cuts.
Okay.
And if I were to go back to 2014 and see the 60 that's here, you just you don't see missed cuts all that much. But again, there are mold breakers. And that's why I had Neiman in a bunch of my lineups. Like I created 21 lineups with these golfers in it. Of the 21, I think I had Poston in maybe 5. So he was my favorite play, but then I played everybody else once. So Neiman actually was in a good contest for me that I didn't take down as winner take all, but it was so close, man. If he would have won, he was owned 3% in that lineup. I'm not thinking of ownership. I'm thinking of buckets.
It leads you to an answer of some sort, but you were just off. Like you were on the process, but you had just clicked one name difference, so you're close.
So that's the little bit layer. So I like to find these trends basically, and that's a lot what the bucket system does. Find trends, try to find the Michael Kim of the John Deere Classic. That's pretty much what I'm trying to do. And believe it or not, Michael Kim, like Jim Herman during the Wyndham Championship, showed up once on the bucket system.
Right.
So I do an ownership model based off of this, and that's where I find the sweet spot number. Rom was like 51. Like, he was the highest. Like, if I were to go ahead and sort this, obviously you see X marks. The X marks, I had to make a decision. It was, DJ was 11.5. I really liked Rom, so I couldn't play DJ in a lot of lineups, and I wanted to go all in on certain players so I can maximize my profit potential, basically. So these were the guys I X'd out. A lot of top 20s, but for their price, didn't really matter. I didn't really like Scotty Scheffler all that much. I just didn't go with Scotty Scheffler. I chose Matsuyama instead. Same with Paul Casey. Like, they're all around that same price. Didn't care for them. That's why I didn't go. So anyways, Rom, Xander, JT were my highest guys, but I didn't play as many JT because I couldn't. Rom and Xander took up a lot of my ownership. You can't put JT in with those lineups. Surprise, surprise. But anyways, this was the ownership based off of it average between the two of salary, and then I did the recent form bucket. Basically, how good was your recent form? That's how I decided. So my highest guy was John Rahm. John Rahm won. So it was awesome. And I want to see more top 20s up here, but it's good to see 0, 60th and on, basically. Yeah, exactly. So it looks good. But that's basically how I wrap it up. Like, that's how I figure out my ownership, using the bucket system, using salary, like salary theory, basically, and then rounding it up with an extra layer of like recent form. And that's pretty much how I get on my lineups. So a little complex, but I can kind of, add that little piece. So all in all, finding the sweet spot got me on John Rahm. So
dude, and it worked. You got a little money back or whatever. You got your money back. Play
absolutely.
Again. And if you had the right combo this week, could have actually been a hashtag mega profit for you.
Absolutely, man. So it ended up working out, and that's really all I have to like. I feel good about it.
Your process works. Your spreadsheet told you some answers, and you just needed to click a couple differently, and it would have been huge.
So before we end this this little interview segment, I do want to ask, I probably want to ask you a couple things, but first of all, what is your process week in and week out?
Okay, so by default, I do 2 podcasts every week, so I have to prepare so I don't sound like I'm an idiot when I'm talking. Right. And that entails starting just doing things that you do every week. You kind of have a process of looking at recent results, looking at the recent form. I use different websites to have things that are sorted easily for you.
Basically, I want to ask, do you look a lot at recent form, course history, or strokes gained?
Sure. Yeah, all three.
All three?
Yeah. So now I watch golf. I use the gut model eyeball test to see what I feel. And now by watching golf in 2020, that doesn't mean actually watching golf because you can't fucking see anything because NBC or whatever Golf Channel doesn't show any shots. So you basically have to watch Shot Tracker and you have to follow the leaderboard and you have to just follow everything as they're going along. So that means watching golf, knowing like, wow, that guy's doing really well. Oh, why? Oh, now he's bad. Okay, so you just follow along. Next, go to websites, sort by how they did that week, the week before, approach, tee to green. If they've putted amazing, oh God, that's makes me nervous. How they've done on this course, sure, that matters, but is that a huge factor for me? No. I mostly look at recent form and results more than stats, just how they actually resulted.
Sure.
That it bakes in the statistical stuff. Typically by Tuesday afternoon, I have a decent idea of ownership, which gives us content to talk about on the Fantasy Golf Pod. So then we talk about ownership and whether this guy's going to be the chalk or whatever. Can you still use them? And yes, of course. But then how do you pivot and where do you pivot? Finding a low-owned 7K guy, that's the dream that you feel confident about. And then you just plug them a lot. But, yeah. Then building, I typically build 20 lineups and I use about 20 to 25 players. I found that using less than 20 players in a 20 lineup creation system thing, you kind of have to like overlap a lot.
Sure.
And for me, I'm not a player that wants to go, Ricky Bobby all in or go home. But I do want to have a couple bullets if I do have an inkling. So, it changes every week. If I like a guy, I might go a little bit heavier, maybe 50 or more % of my player pool, my exposure on one human. But ultimately, 40% is usually like the max you want to go on a guy. But yeah, 24 gives you the chance to go with like 6 fringe, they call them tertiary plays, where you get like 2 or 3 shares on a couple guys, which, that's the key, is that you get your good core, but then it's those randos. So if you're only using 20, you're going to get more tight with your booty, and you're going to like decide, no, I can't use those other names because that will make, no, they're scary names. Like this week, I did the same thing. I did 21 names this week, and I X'd Hughes at the last second, Kokrak at the last second. I mean, like those were 2 names that I were strongly considering, and then I X'd them, and then I see them, hello, right here, doing well. So, like, if I had played 23, then I would have used those 2, and I would have been happy. But so, like 23, 24, 20 names, and then just make sure you don't go too much on one guy. That's the strategy.
So. Okay, really quickly. Do you look at grass stats? Do you like to look at?
I do. I like it. Not only just grass, but just types of environment, like South, East Coast,
regional,
South,
kind of thing.
Regional. If you're in the West Coast guy, like Cam Champa in California, he's proven it. Now, does it actually lead to things? I don't know, but we like to have reasons, Eric. We're trying to figure out what to say to feel comfortable with your clicks. You're never going to really have anything that's going to lead you to an answer. But hey, Eric and I are working on that. We're going to try to come up with something eventually with this spreadsheet. Maybe we will be able to spit out bucket system answers. But at the same time, yes, Bermuda, people are better on Bermuda. But Munoz was a Bermuda guy, a specialist. I only take Munoz on Bermuda is what I had in my head. And then, boom, here he is on bent.
Absolutely.
It was. So
it's POA and bent. Yeah. I totally agree with you. And you can't.
So this is his first top 10 on POA?
Yeah.
So there you go. But he's young. He's new to the team.
I think it was mostly POA than it was bent. But obviously there was.
See, that's the thing. It's like, you'll say, Munoz sucks at everything but Bermuda. Well, how many turns has he actually played compared to like an Adam Scott, for example?
Yep.
Like a Kevin Kisner. And Kevin Kisner's good at every grass. So, like, don't really worry about it for that kind of player.
Right. He was the bottom 20 or bottom 10 of POA events coming into this tournament. So like he didn't have a lot. He had 19 POA events that we could record stats on.
So if you're going with stats and you're going with bent grass stats, you wouldn't have used Munoz and it would have ruined you. So maybe you don't be so rigid in your thinking. We do say on the Fantasy Golf Pod, have amnesia, not like full on amnesia, but like there's different degrees of amnesia, slight amnesia where you kind of remember enough, but not everything.
But Chad, I'm a golfer, man. I don't have amnesia.
That's the problem, right?
Everything.
I know, like that the grass screwed you on that one hole. Like
stupid bunch of grass there. That must have been freaking rye or something. Yeah.
So again, I don't know. Take it for a grain of salt, most of the stuff.
So anyways, what I want to tell everyone, because I'm not going to go through this, you can see on here, top 10 POA. I mean, here's your overall POA here, and you can see the results. Obviously, I have this ordered by, top 20, your first, second place, and so on. And then we have overall bent here. I can scroll over a little bit so you guys can see this. For the most part, if you went by POA stats minus Munoz, I think you're going to be good. You're going to be on a good track. I believe – so John Rahm was the 5th best POA golfer, and if we went by POA, you can see the results on the left. We're not going to talk about it, Chad. I'm not going to add more.
But it's like roulette where you have your things that you kind of like factor in.
Right.
So just do what you like. If you think grass matters, think grass matters every week, and just do that.
Hey,
or if you don't think it matters, just try. But again, we're trying to play for fun too.
Oh, so, right.
I mean, but part of fun is winning. So,
And I mean, we all like to think we have the best strategy, right? And it's about finding that best strategy and better predicting. It takes a lot. It's not just one thing or the other. It's incorporating a lot.
Well, and you don't have to do anything, Eric. You don't have to go this deep.
You don't. You really don't.
You could click open our spreadsheet when we publish this, so maybe Monday, tomorrow afternoon, and you could just go through what we have on the first page, because we're going to have a couple different tabs on this spreadsheet that Eric and I are going to put together. A collaboration between the Fantasy Golf Pod and the SweetSpot DFS. It's going to be just a way for you to not waste your time and maybe just go right to this spreadsheet, look here, look there, sort by this, and then it gives you a few names, and then boom, you're on your way. And we know, Eric, if you've clicked 6 names, you have just as good of a shot as anybody else.
It's true.
It's straight up roulette.
That's true.
You got to get lucky.
I want to talk about tea time pairings, but we really don't have the time.
My beer is empty. I got to go get another beer.
Oh, well, son of a bee.
Thanks for having me on, sir.
Yeah, absolutely,
and we'll be in touch.
Man.
And again, SweetSpot's DFS or the Fantasy Golf Pod, you'll see a spreadsheet for the Tour Championship. Click. Give us some feedback on that.
Absolutely, guys. Please. We would love the feedback. Only get better. But anyways, Chad, thank you for joining. I've really appreciated it. And thanks for your insight. Hopefully, together we will provide the best insight.
Together, everyone accomplishes more as a team.
Right. Absolutely.
Let's go.
All right. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. All right. That was Chad Eckert from the Fantasy Golf Pod. I do want to thank him once again for joining the recap video for the BMW Championship. You got to see a little bit of my apartment without the green screen, which is totally fine, I guess. No, I'm kidding. And I guess I have to admit, man, I had a calculation error in there. I am smart at the maths, I swear. It was a 15-point difference in the optimal lineup, not 25. But that's me with my OCD and making sure everything is correct. But I do want you to know I understand. I saw it. Anyways, here are the last little bits that I want to add. We did talk about in the DFS strategy video, we went over the stats leading into the tournament. So looking at the 2018 DK page, this is top to bottom sorted, the most top 20 stats. I had said we want to focus on 2 of the top guys and, really try to skip out on that first top guy. If we go ahead and look at 2019, same thing kind of applies. Like Rory had a good finish, but he was 19th. And then we have 1st and 3rd down here. We had 2nd and 8th down here. In 2020, if we went by stats, again, this is sorted top to bottom. Finau did well enough. He was not in the optimal lineup, but he was in the winning GPP lineup. So it kind of changes that a little bit. He was tied with JT, so I guess if I went like this, I can really, work it in my favor. Now we have Tony and John Rahm. But my favorite play was my favorite players were John Rahm and Hideki. So that was just one layer that I wanted to add to all of this. I'm going to go ahead and sort it again by result, and let's talk about tea time pairings really quickly, because Chad and I really didn't get on that. I did ask him a little bit, but we just didn't fully get into it. So with tea time pairings, I do want to point out a couple things. We had Joaquin Niemann with Tony Finau up here at the top, and if you included both of them, you probably were going to get on a good lineup. I mean, both of them weren't included in the optimal lineup, and both of them weren't included in the winning GPP lineup, but it was doable. You certainly could have. But yeah, you could have paired those guys up. You could have also paired up Sebastian Munoz and Lanto Griffin. I guess if I open up the points scored, you can see that Lanto Griffin and Sebastian Munoz, probably weren't your best points getter. Like, you could come down here and go to Cantlay. Actually, between the two, that's pretty similar. Cantlay and Benny Ann, that's 123.50. And this is 121. So, yeah, the better pairing would have been Cantlay and Ben Ann. But look at how many pairings that we could have added together. You really wouldn't have wanted to add any of these guys with their counterparts just because they were so expensive. It would have been great to pick one. And obviously, they were in good groups. And picking one would have been optimal. Like, DJ was in a lineup or in a pairing with JT and Daniel Berger. Now, Berger and DJ were doing well for a while, and then Berger kind of sputtered out. But either way, if you would have picked one of them, it would have been good. So I'm not going to go further into tea time pairings. You can see it worked. It would have worked this week. Let's go ahead and hide some of this other information, and let's talk about grass stats. We kind of did with Chad a little bit, Didn't get fully immersed into it, which is totally fine because, again, we had limited time. If you want, screenshot this, pause the video. I'm not going to look at world golf ranking, points per game, or value. But let's go ahead and hide that. And yeah, let's talk about the grass stats right away. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these two. We don't need to reopen that. But yeah, POA top to bottom. I'm going to go through this really fast. So if you want to capture any of this, please pause the video and then screen grab it, screenshot it, that kind of thing. So here you go. Top to bottom, overall POA. You see a lot of top 20 finishes. This was a POA/bent golf course, and your POA stats do show up. Now, the top guy, Adam Scott, was in the tournament for a while. A double bogey on the par 5, I believe, was kind of a make or break for him. It really halted any hopes of finishing inside the top 10 or even inside the top 3, because he was doing well. I think it was 1 over before he actually double bogeyed that par 5. But anyways, POA was a good stat to look at. You can see the overall POA did pretty well. Jason Day obviously didn't finish good enough. If we went in 2020 POA, we see a lot of top 20s. Again, we see Jason Day. He did not do well. So let's go ahead and hide this now and talk about bent grass stats to see if bent grass really mattered. So bent grass, we can see, let's go ahead and sort top to bottom. You can see John Rahm, your winner. I think this course is more POA than it was bent. So the fact that John Rahm won, I think, is more a testament to his POA and overall bent grass stats complete. It's a little mix of both. And then you see Hideki Matsuyama up there. So really, you could have went on these two guys. They're in your optimal lineup. They're in the winning GPP lineup. If you started there and you constructed as many lineups you could with all the different types of combinations, you would have done well. And then we can look at 2020 bent grass. As you can see, this one didn't really pertain to success as much as the overall did and POA grass. So let's go ahead and talk about swing stats really quickly. So top to bottom, tee to green, obviously the top guy, Justin Thomas, did not do good enough to warrant playing him. He definitely did not bring back value, but then your next guy was Hideki Matsuyama. And in the swing stats, what we were looking at were tee to green with good off the tee or good approach. It was one or the other. And that's kind of how I did my ownership model of who I wanted to own was based off of that. But yeah, you can see here, just within the top 5, 6 golfers, you have the winner, you have third place. You couldn't have played any of these other guys up here. And really, Henley didn't do terrible. Like he could have, you could have done all right. And then Joaquin Niemann, believe it or not, is a top 20 stat. Now, I had Webb Simpson in here when I did all the color coding. So he was a top 20 tee to green. But once he got removed, Joaquin Niemann became top 20. And I just didn't update it. But there he is, top 20. And he was a difference maker. He was part of the optimal lineup. Off the tee, I'm not going to talk about everybody, but you can see they're all on the list. Looks like off the tee was kind of important. Approach, again, another stat that was pretty important. You see Matsuyama up there. Joaquin Niemann shows up there. So does Tony Finau. That was a good stat to go by. Around the green, sure, we have a few people up there, more than I would have anticipated. So it was a hard golf course. I guess it makes sense to see guys with good around the green stats up there. Something to keep in mind going forward, especially at hard courses. Let's look at a little bit of around the green, pair it up with maybe the off the tee stats. Not so much off the tee, but tee to green. I think that would work pretty well. Putting, Matthew Fitzpatrick shows up at the top. His putting was great this week, and he plays tough golf course as well. So that was definitely a plus. But yeah, the top putting guys didn't do the greatest. You had to come down to 10 through 20 ranked putters to find anyone you would want to play. So I wouldn't really consider putting that big of a stat to look by. Green and reg was pretty decent. You see a lot of golfers up there, top 10, top 5. I think that was a good one to go with. Proximity, sure. Jason Kokrak finally shows up. I suppose he showed up in green and reg and off the tee. But yeah, maybe that was something, decent to follow. I'm gonna have to scroll past so you can't really see the results, but I'll come over here now. We can look at birdie or better, and that was really the only stat I included with the top 10 stats. Did birdie or better matter? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you have Jon Rahm up there, but it's because he's, an elite player, and you have Hideki Matsuyama, again, another elite player. As for value plays, really don't see anyone that really jumps off. I'd say Im was probably a value play, as was Cameron Champ. Those guys, didn't, make it anywhere close to the optimal lineup, or even a lineup you'd want. You wouldn't have won a lot of money with those guys, is what I'm getting at. Sebastian Munoz, though, does show up. And I guess with Webb Simpson out, Munoz would actually pop up inside the top 20. So we do have to keep that in mind. But yeah, it doesn't look like birdie or better was really an important stat to go by. I usually judge it based off of how many people inside the top 10 of, I suppose top 10 would be right here. How many finish inside the top 10? And we do have 2 golfers that are up there, but you can only play 1. So, and they're elite golfers. I want to find value plays that are up here, like Tyrrell Hatton. If he was, I should say Tyrrell Hatton, if he was like a top 10, top 5 finisher, and then say Bryson was a top 10 finisher, I'd say, okay, birdie or better definitely was one that we would want to use. But since our top birdie or better golfers didn't do the greatest, minus Dustin Johnson and Jon Rahm, can't say it was a stat we really want to, follow. So, and it was a hard course. We weren't going to get a lot of birdies. Let's see if bogey avoidance played a huge factor in this. I do want to look at bogey avoidance. I do want to look at driving accuracy. So bogey avoidance, nah. I mean, Jon Rahm, sure. If you want to look for an elite golfer, you need to choose one. Maybe it's between these 3, and it would have been your convictions and who you'd want to play. We do see Brendan Todd, who is also part of the optimal lineup, as well as the winning GPP lineup. Hideki is up there. So we see 3 golfers in the optimal lineup. So that's a good thing to see. What about driving accuracy? Because that was a hot debate. Driving accuracy. Unfortunately, we see 3 golfers inside the optimal lineup. So again, I guess that mattered. And 4 within the winning GPP lineup. So hey, that was good. How about good drive percentage? That did not show up. So you can see the result there on the left. That was not a good stat to go by. And the last one, driving distance. Did driving distance matter at this golf course? Well, there are more golfers inside the top 20 than there were for driving accuracy, but we still have the same amount of optimal lineup golfers as well as GPP winning, golfers. So Tony Finau, Jon Rahm, Hideki Matsuyama, Jason Kokrak. Let's see, did those numbers overlap with driving accuracy as well? We have these 2. So Rahm did. So Rahm driving distance, like that plays a huge factor. Hideki not so much, but I want you guys to keep an eye on Hideki because he was hitting the ball, driving the ball really well on Sunday. So that's all I want to talk about after my little co-recap with Chad Eckert. I have nothing else to add. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please follow Chad on all the platforms. Follow me as well. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I would really appreciate it. But anyways, look out for that spreadsheet tomorrow, the one that Chad and I are collaborating on. And we will see you in the preview video or the course fit video for the Tour Championship. All right, see you later.